Ladies and gentlemen, there is a quiet shift happening in the world. So subtle, so still that many will miss it entirely. In the middle of all the shouting, the scrolling, the arguing, the performing, there's a calling, not outward but inward. A calling that says, be still, refocus. Turn down the noise and come back to yourself. Come back to God. We are standing in a year like no other. 2025 has brought with it more noise than clarity, more motion than direction, more pressure than peace. Every device demands your attention. Every platform pulls you into endless cycles of comparison and opinion. And if you're not careful, the world will distract you right out of your destiny. But not you. Not this time. This is the year to refocus. Not on them. Not on the trends. Not on who's watching, but on you, your soul, your habits. Atsevaning. Your calling, your quiet walk with the one who sees what no one else does. It's time to pull back, to protect your peace, and to plant yourself deeply, not loudly, in purpose. You see, there's a different kind of power that comes when you stop explaining, stop reacting, stop performing, and start becoming. There's strength in the silence. There's growth in the stillness. And there's a voice waiting to be heard, not from the outside, but from within. This is not the year to chase applause. It's the year to build a life that speaks when you don't say a word. This is not the season to prove your worth. It's the season to live in it, quietly, confidently, because sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stop talking and start transforming. So as we step into this message, I invite you to take a breath, slow your mind, and lean into what can only be found when you focus on yourself and stay silent in 2025. We are living in a time where the volume of the world has reached unprecedented levels. In 2025, distraction has become the default setting of modern life. Notifications buzz before we open our eyes in the morning. News headlines are weaponized to provoke emotion. Social media algorithms feed us a steady diet of outrage, comparison, and counterfeit connection. Everyone has something to say, and most are saying it loudly. Silence is rare. Stillness is misunderstood. And focus, true, deep, undistracted focus, is nearly extinct. We are constantly being pulled out into 100 conversations that don't concern us, into trends that don't serve us, into battles that aren't even ours to fight. The noise to fight. The noise demands a reaction. The crowd pushes us to perform. The world urges us to speak, to defend, to compare, to prove. But what if the most powerful thing you could do right now, this year, is to not respond at all? The chaos is designed to wear you out. It's designed to consume your energy before you ever get a chance to use it for what really matters. That's why silence is not weakness, it's wisdom, it's warfare. It's a strategy, not a retreat. To focus on yourself in 2025 is to make a radical decision. That your peace is more valuable than your popularity. That your healing is more urgent than your status. That your destiny requires privacy, patience, and protection. And that not every voice deserves a reply. Not every trend deserves your time. Not every opinion needs your participation. This world is loud. It will tempt you with endless invitations to argue, to prove, to post, to perform. But you weren't called to live your life in response to the crowd. You were called to live with intention, with clarity, and with the kind of inward focus that builds real change. Turn down the world's volume. Take back your attention. Guard your energy. Let the world shout, scream, and spin in confusion. You stay silent. Not because you don't have something to say, but because you're too focused building a life that speaks for itself. In 2025, the loudest voice isn't the one that shouts the most. It's the one that refuses to be shaken. We live in a world that often mistakes personal focus for arrogance. Society pressures us to always be available, always be performing, always be explaining ourselves. And when you decide to step back, to grow in silence, to rebuild yourself, to protect your peace, people might call it selfish. But don't let that fool you. In truth, focusing on yourself isn't selfish. It's deeply spiritual. There comes a point in life when survival is no longer enough. You begin to crave substance, purpose, and alignment with something greater than you. That's not vanity. That's maturity. And in 2025, a distracted world makes this maturity feel rare. But it's needed now more than ever. God didn't create you to live fragmented, exhausted, and reactive. He created you to live whole, steady, intentional, and rooted in Him. That kind of life takes focus. It takes pulling back from the noise to look inward, not just to fix what's broken, but to rediscover what's sacred. Focusing on yourself means asking hard questions. Who am I becoming when no one is watching? What habits are shaping my future? What is God saying to me in this season of quiet? You see, healing takes focus. Growth takes focus. Prayer takes focus. Discipline, forgiveness, wisdom, none of these things happen in the crowd. They happen in the quiet corners of your life where no one else sees but God. And if you ignore those corners, if you pour out to everyone else while ignoring the condition of your own soul, you will eventually run empty. Focusing on yourself is about stewardship. It's recognizing that your heart, your mind, your energy, and your time are sacred resources. They are gifts you've been entrusted with, and not just to survive the day, but to fulfill your calling. When you take time to heal, to grow, to forgive yourself, to develop consistency, to build in silence, that's not selfish. That's not spiritual discipline. That's obedience. That's wisdom. In 2025, don't apologize for focusing on yourself. You're not abandoning the world. You're preparing to serve it better. But you can't pour from an empty cup. So guard your peace. Protect your focus. And remember, sometimes the holiest thing you can do is step away from everything that drains you and return to the one who restores you. In today's world, silence is often misunderstood. People assume if you're quiet, you're weak. If you're not posting, you're falling behind. If you're not explaining yourself, you must have something to hide. But let me tell you something powerful. Silence is not weakness. It is strength under control. In 2025, this strength will set you apart. We live in a culture addicted to visibility. Everyone wants to be seen, heard, and validated instantly. But some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are the ones who don't say a word. They just keep building, growing, and healing in silence. They're not loud, but they're lethal in purpose. Why? Because silence breeds clarity, and clarity breeds power. When you stop explaining your every move, you begin to walk in quiet confidence. You stop needing permission. You stop needing applause. You stop trying to convince people who were never meant to understand your path in the first place. Silence gives you space to hear your own thoughts, your own convictions, and more importantly, to hear the still, small voice of God guiding you. This kind of silence doesn't come from indifference. It comes from discipline. It's the silence of someone who has wrestled with their demons, sat with their pain, faced their fears, and chose not to broadcast the battle. They chose to grow in private, and that decision gave birth to a strength no one saw coming. There is power in not reacting. There is power in not responding to every insult, every rumor, every distraction. There is power in choosing to be unbothered, unmoved, and unavailable to nonsense. Not everything deserves your energy. Not every conflict deserves your attention. And not every season requires a public explanation. When you embrace silence, you begin to preserve what matters. You preserve your peace. You preserve your momentum. You preserve the sacred space where God is doing His best work in you. Away from the noise, the critics, and the pressure to prove something. In 2025, while others exhaust themselves trying to be heard, you'll be recharging in the quiet. And when it's time to speak, your life will speak louder than your words ever could. So don't fear the silence. Become strong in it. In a culture where everything is shared, meals, milestones, thoughts, opinions, even pain, it almost feels unnatural to grow in silence. But here's a truth most people forget in 2025. Real growth doesn't need an audience. It's not glamorous. It's not loud, it doesn't ask for applause. It happens in the shadows, behind closed doors, and the quiet decisions you make when no one is watching. We've been conditioned to believe that if no one sees it, it doesn't matter. That if it's not posted, it's not real. But what happens when we start chasing visibility more than we chase victory? What happens when we start performing healing instead of actually doing the deep, painful work of becoming whole? Here's the truth. Some of the most powerful changes in your life will happen when you stop trying to prove something and start trying to become something. Transformation doesn't need to be broadcasted to be legitimate. In fact, the more sacred the work, the more private it often needs to be. Some roots grow best in silence. Some healing happens best in solitude. There is a holiness in working on yourself quietly. Waking up early to read, to pray, to reflect. Breaking old habits that nobody else knew you were fighting. Forgiving people who will never say sorry. Saying a no to things that once ruled your life. Choosing discipline over comfort. This kind of growth isn't photogenic. It won't get 1,000 likes to but it will prepare you for the life you're truly called to live. And make no mistake, just because no one sees you planting seeds doesn't mean a harvest isn't coming. Your consistency in private is building a future in public. Your character is being carved in silence so that one day when the spotlight finds you, you'll be ready, not just to shine, but to withstand the weight that comes with it. Let them wonder what you're up to. Let them assume you've disappeared. You're not gone, you're growing. And when the time is right, the fruit of your focus will speak for itself. In 2025, resist the urge to announce your process. Just do the work, because growth doesn't need an audience. It only needs your commitment. We are living in the age of relentless distraction. Everywhere you turn, there's a new voice pulling for your attention, a trend you're expected to follow, a platform demanding your presence, a narrative trying to tell you who you should be. In 2025, attention is no longer just about curiosity. It's a currency. It's a currency for it. Influencers thrive on it. Entire industries are built on it. And if you're not intentional, you'll spend your life giving it away, never realizing the cost. Every click, every scroll, every reaction chips away at your focus. And if you're not careful, you'll wake up one day building a life that looks good to others but feels empty to you. Why? Because the world doesn't want you focused. It wants you distracted. Distraction keeps you consuming instead of creating. It keeps you comparing instead of becoming. It keeps you reactive instead of reflective. The world will tempt you with shiny things. Popularity over purpose, applause over authenticity, quick wins over long-term growth. It will tell you that you're falling behind if you're not constantly posting, engaging, or responding. But don't believe the lie. The real battle isn't happening outside. It's happening within. Your focus is under attack because your future depends on it. And then there's approval, the most subtle yet dangerous distraction of all. You can be doing great, walking your path, making progress. But the moment someone disapproves, doubts you, or misunderstands your silence, you're tempted to pause your progress just to explain yourself. Don't. You weren't created to live for their understanding. You were created to live for your calling. When you focus on yourself and stay silent, you take back control of your narrative. You stop dancing for approval and start walking in purpose. You stop chasing relevance and start cultivating resilience. Not every opinion deserves a reply. Not every trend deserves your participation. And not every opportunity is meant for you. So in 2025, when the world shouts, "Look here," you look inward. When the crowd says, "Speak now," you stay grounded. Let them chase the noise. You chase wisdom. Let them seek attention. You seek alignment. Because the more they distract, the more you focus, and that's where your power begins. In a world obsessed with noise, expression, and visibility, silence can feel like weakness. But don't mistake restraint for absence. Some of the most powerful people in the world don't need to announce what they're doing. They simply do it. Their progress is quiet, their growth is private. But their results? Loud, transformative, undeniable. In 2025, everyone seems to be talking about plans, goals, dreams, and next moves. But very few are doing the work consistently enough for their life to reflect what they claim. We live in a culture where saying it is often valued more than building it. But you were never called to prove yourself through words alone. You were called to live in such a way that your fruit speaks for you. Let your discipline speak. Let your peace speak. Let your transformation speak. You don't have to explain your healing process. You don't need to convince anyone that you're growing. Time will tell. Results will reveal. And the fruit of your quiet focus will speak louder than any speech, caption, or conversation ever could. Some people will misunderstand your silence. To return to the quiet place where your faith is built in secret and your strength is born in stillness, you don't need another opinion. You don't need another trend. You need His voice. And sometimes to hear it clearly, you must first silence everything else. In 2025, let silence become your sanctuary. Not your retreat, but your revelation room. Because in the silence, God doesn't just whisper guidance, He breathes life. As we draw this message to a close, I want you to pause, not just in thought, but in spirit. Let the weight of everything you've heard settle deep within you, not as noise, but as nourishment. You were not called to live your life chasing reactions. You were not designed to spend your days explaining your worth or exhausting your soul trying to stay seen. You were created for more, a deeper more, a quieter more, a sacred more. And in 2025, that amore won't come from doing louder things. It will come from living in alignment with what truly matters. That kind of life is built quietly. It's built with prayer when the world isn't watching.